Well, good afternoon. Man, I feel like some people probably haven't seen each other in a while. Everybody's chatty. It's okay though. I don't blame you. I do not blame you one bit. Before we get started, we're going to wait maybe just another minute on some more parents. I know some people are joining us online. Crazy technology. I never would have thought I'd be doing a parent meeting through live stream, so it's okay. It's crazy how these times have been, but if you need some water, we have some waters up front if you get a little thirsty. Before we get started, parents, I want to say thank you for, one, taking the time out of your day to come and kind of hear about camp. Whether you're registered or not, we thank you for coming to hear about what it is that we're doing for camp. And we're excited. I know some parents might be a little on edge regarding the virus. It's okay. We're taking precautions. We'll talk about all that during the meeting as we continue to wait for a few more parents to come in. So hang tight. Hang tight for 1 second. Yes. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to our parent meeting for Camp Focus. We are excited that you have chosen to sign your student up, or you're waiting to hear what we have to say about camp to sign your student up. But we're excited for what God is already doing in the midst of preparation for this camp. We know that a lot of camps have been canceled. A lot of camps have just been like, we don't want to run camp. We don't want to run the risk. But for me and the rest of these youth pastors, we have this burden that a lot of these students have been just stuck at home. And they're dealing with a lot of things, a lot of different things in their life. And so we were like, you know what, we got to have youth camp. There's no summer without youth camp. And so today we're going to go through quite a bit of some detail, because I know, again, in light of the virus, that we want to make sure that we cover all our bases and make sure that we are being safe during this week at camp. But I'm going to go ahead and finish talking. I'm going to go ahead and pray real quick, and we will have Pastor Aaron come up to get us started on this meeting, all right? Let's pray. God, thank you so much for today. God, thank you for these individuals in this room. God, I pray that during this meeting that we would be able to communicate well what it is that we need to communicate, God. So, God, be with us in this place. Be with us as we meet together. In your name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Jesse. Okay, so my name is Aaron Allen. I'm the youth pastor at Sunnyvale First Baptist Church. And before we get started going into different things, I want to just introduce the other, we'll call it cohort of youth pastors that have come together just in this area that share the vision that Jesse has about for our students and having camp and things like that. And so, first off, like I said, myself, Aaron Allen, Sunnyvale First Baptist Church, youth pastor over there. And we have one youth pastor who's not here with us today because they live kind of further away, but a good friend of mine named Ryan Dusek, and he is at First Baptist Church Blue Ridge. They'll be going with us as part of our group. And we have Mike, if you'll stand up, Mike Harper from Hope Sunnyvale. I've got to know him over the past couple of months. He's a great guy. And then a good friend of mine, Josiah Presley from Galloway Avenue Baptist Church. There's Josiah, another good friend of mine. And an okay guy next, Kyle Wisdom. Just kidding. I love you, man. From Lake Ridge Bible Church. And last but not least, the guy that's put all this together and kind of started this whole thing that we've been doing the past couple of months, Jesse Penny from Inspiration Church. Thank you. Thank you for your vision, dedication, and hard work to your students and ours as well. Very much appreciated. So I'm just going to talk about basic things. I don't want to be up here too long. You don't want me up here too long because, So two things we're going to talk about real quick are vision and theme. Our theme is focus. The point of this is just kind of look with all of this just crazy stuff that's been going on through this summer and within the students' lives of being stuck at home. And we really want a time where they can revert their focus back on Jesus in order to be prepared to be world changers moving forward for the rest of their lives. And so I think, we've been talking about this with just all the stuff that's been going on. It's easy to get sidetracked and focused on those things rather than being central in Jesus and taking looking at a lens of the world through Jesus into every other aspect of life. So we want to be focused on Jesus and preparing them to be world changers wherever they go. The speaker for the week, his name is Steve John. He spoke during our online youth group thing that we had going on when everything shut down. He's great. We're looking forward to the message he's going to bring for us during the week. The band is called Portraits. I don't know a whole lot about them, but Jesse vouched for them, so I guess that's fine. And last but not least, from mine, Kyle's, and Josiah's alma mater, the rec team for the week will be from Criswell College. Man, no applause for that one. Okay, anyway, so there we go. Yeah, great, there we go, yeah. Criswell College, they've graciously given us their time and some of their students to come and just do rec for us. So we're really looking forward to that. It's going to be a good time. Now I'm going to go over the schedule with you guys for just a second. Do we have those printed out, or am I just going to kind of run through it real quick? Just go through it? All right, cool. So these are just simple things real quick. So on Monday, we'll check in at camp around 3 p.m., and then at 4:30, we're going to have a pastor/leader meeting, kind of get everybody directed to what everything's going to be like that week. And then from 4:30 to 5:45, there'll be some free time. So they'll have some time to go out and explore the camp and get to know everything and all that kind of stuff. And dinner will be from 6 to 7 on Monday. And then we'll do a night session. So we'll have our first introduction/worship session that night from 7:15 to 8:45. And then from 8:45 to 9:30, we'll have our church small group times. So we'll kind of break up from the big group session and go to our own church sessions and talk about the night and stuff like that. And then after that, we'll do a night activity Monday night. So we'll have different night activities throughout the week. Monday night's night activity will be like a hoedown, like country dancing, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it's fine. It'll be fun. You guys will enjoy it. I'll just make fun of you while you do it. So night activity hoedown Monday. That'll end at 11, and then from 11 to 12, you guys can get ready for bed and lights out at 12. That's Monday. Now, Tuesday through Thursday, this is going to be the schedule. We'll have breakfast at 8, from 8 to 8:45. And from 9 to 10:30, we'll have a morning session, so we'll do worship in the morning. And from 10:45 to 11:45, we'll have rec, which will be led by the Criswell College rec team. And from 12 to 1 is lunch. 1 to 1:30, we wanted to have a devotional, quiet time. You guys can just kind of rest. You guys can read through this devotional. I think we're going to talk about that stuff in the next coming weeks of what those are going to look like for y'all, and give you some things to run through and have a devotional time. And then from 2 to 3, we'll do some more small groups. And 3 to 5:30, you guys will have free time again. So go out, go to the camp, do some fun stuff. I think we'll also have, I don't want to speak too soon, but we talked about maybe doing basketball and some, what else did we say? Volleyball and gaga ball, stuff like that. We'll probably do some tournaments and whatnot. So we'll have those things lined out for you guys during that free time, 3 to 5:30 from Tuesday to Thursday. And plus, the camp has other things you guys can go do, different activities that they have set up that you guys can go be a part of. And 6 to 7 is dinner. 7:15 to 8:45, we'll have another night session, another worship session, and then we'll do church small group time after that. And then our night activity. So like I said, we'd have different night activities throughout the week. So on Tuesday, we're going to do a scavenger hunt. And we'll explain what that will look like when we get there, because there's going to be a bunch of different rules and things like that. Wednesday night, we'll have a talent show. And Thursday night, we'll do a night of worship. So those are the different night activities. So from Monday to Thursday, it'll look like a hoedown, then a scavenger hunt, and then a talent show, and night of worship. And those will be from 9:45 to 11, Monday through Thursday. Then, of course, lights out at 12. Now, Friday will look a little different than the rest of the day, so we've got to get up, we've got to eat, and we've got to leave. Simple. So 8:30 to 9:15, we'll have breakfast on Friday morning. And then, this looks weird on my thing, that's why I'm looking at it strange. And then from 9:30 to 10, so a 30-minute, last-minute session. We'll come together as a group, sing some more worship songs probably, and then just kind of get a last-minute, hey, go out and, live for Jesus from Steve John, the speaker. And then we will leave at 10 o'clock. And we'll be headed our way home. So it takes about 2 hours to get back, I think, so we should be home between 12 and 1 for the parents. So be at your respective churches to pick up your kids, because we will be done with them by then. So, we love you guys very much. With that said, We'll leave questions and things for the end. We'll have a time set aside for you guys to ask all the questions you need to. So if you have questions about the schedule, just reserve those until the end, and then we'll get to those. Next, I believe, is Kyle to discuss some other administrative stuff about the camp.
Hello, so like you said, my name is Kyle Wisdom. I'm the youth director at Lake Ridge Bible Church, and I drew the short straw. I get to talk to you about all the health-related things. So I get to talk about, diseases and sickness and prevention and all that wonderful stuff. Let me just start off this section by simply saying all of us are extremely aware that you are entrusting us with your children. And we do not take that responsibility lightly, and we will be doing everything we can along with this camp staff to make sure that your children are safe, they are taken care of, and that we are preventatively preparing them to not get sick. All right, so all that to say, that's our heart, that's our motivation. We need them to encounter the Lord, and we believe the camp is the best way to do that over the next couple of weeks. And so we are not cavalierly entering into this time. And so here's some of the things that we're doing in conjunction with Riverbend Retreat Center in order to make sure that your children are safe and sound during their time that they are at camp. So most of the things that we're going to be going through are going to be coordinated through a single individual that we are bringing with us who's our camp health officer. And basically all of the protocols that we do in terms of health prevention, screening, isolation are going to go through that individual. And so if you hear me say camp health officer, that's just our medical representative that we bring with us to the camp. So every student upon arrival at the church before we get to Riverbend will be symptom and temperature checked upon arrival at the church before we leave. That's a way for us to make sure that before we get everybody on buses, that everybody's cool, everybody's where they need to be. And then once they get to camp, they will be checked again. If this sounds tedious, it is. But this is the way that every camp in every state right now is conducting themselves in terms of making sure that as many layers of security go into camp upon their arrival. So that will be on Monday afternoon when we get there. As we offload from our vehicles, we will be doing temperature screenings and symptom checks on every camper and every leader that goes through. And so that will be kind of our gateway to make sure that everybody that enters camp is safe, is healthy as well. After that, what it's going to look like is that all the students are going to be divided up into what the camp is calling pods. And so these pods are going to be the social distancing units throughout the rest of the trip. So what that's going to look like is if you come in a van or in a car, whatever vehicle you come in, at the moment all the divisions we have are based upon a church. So basically each church will be its own pod, or a couple of churches may be their own pod. And basically within that pod, social distancing will be, for lack of a better term, impossible. You're going to be bunking in the same rooms, you're going to be eating at the same tables. We're going to be doing as much as we can to make sure, we're not going to be doing high fives and hugs and all that kind of wonderful stuff as much as we can. But those are going to be the groups that are rooming together, eating together, but that's it. So if you're in a pod with a group, that's the people you're going to be rooming with in your cabins. Those are going to be people you're eating with over the course of the week. That just basically makes sure that we're not integrating every student with every other student and preventing them from being able to isolate among groups. So that's going to go for rec, worship, dining, all of that. And so within those pods, we are going to also be doing the daily temperature and symptom checks on those students with the leaders that are in their dorms. So that's going to be part of the daily ritual that they have in the mornings before they go off to breakfast, before they go off to rec, before they go off to any of those things. And those will be administered by their camp counselors who are with them in their dorms. So that will be done every morning. We'll keep those logs. Those logs will be sent to the camp health officer, and they'll keep tabs on all those things. Camp health officer is also the person who will be in charge of administering medications. So whenever you get your registration form here in just a little bit at the end of the meeting, you will see that you'll have to list medications, dosage, all that kind of stuff. That's going to be administered by the camp health officer as well. So we need to make sure that we have that information from you as we go through. So we'll have those pods that the campers will be staying in. We're going to be really emphasizing hygiene in terms of hand washing, in terms of distancing where possible. Face masks will not be required by students. All the staffers at the camp we are attending will be using masks if they are within social distancing distances of your campers. But we're not going to be requiring that of any of our campers or the leaders that are going to be staying with them in the cabins. And so that's just kind of a way for us to say these units of people are going to be there for one another, and then we're trying to socially distance them from all the other units of pods that are available in the camp. If at any time a student registers a temperature, whether that's in the arrival check, whether that's in the daily temperature checks, that student will be immediately isolated, either in the camp health officer's clinic that we have on campus, or in one of the available dorms that's not being utilized during our week of camp, and you will be immediately notified as the parent that that has happened. We will also be sending out notification to any of the parents within that pod who might have been in contact with that student during that time. So if anything out of the ordinary happens, you'll be immediately notified as a parent. And if we have to isolate your student, we'll watch that as long as possible. But if it's determined that they either have enough symptoms of COVID that we have to make a decision, or whether we can positively test them as COVID, that we'll be contacting you about getting them sent home. Because no leaders or students will be allowed to come and go from the campus. Once they are here to stay. So we're not able to send leaders to take kids home in the event of one of them have to be quarantined. That's going to be something that you as parents have to come, collect them, and then go. Because that otherwise we would lose that leader for the rest of the week, because once they leave, they're not allowed to come back. That's one of the other policies they've instigated as a way to make sure we're controlling the atmosphere at camp. So the rest of the things that we're going to be doing are much more just hygiene related. So every surface, every place, every space that we enter to, the camp is doing as much as they possibly can to sanitize those things. Everything from, they've completely changed up the way they're doing dining, so all the dining will not be buffet style, it will be plated style by people in camp staff who are covered in personal protective equipment, who are sanitized, giving those things to those students so no students are contacting other students' food, any of those things. We'll be dining in particular pod tables so that we're not mixing the students together during those dining situations. All of the rec gear that they're using, all of the life jackets are going to be dipped in sanitizing solution. I mean, they've thought of everything, guys. Literally everything. I think if we did any more, we would be dipping students' morning into sanitizing solution. So they really are making sure that we're providing every possible context for your student to not be touching anything that's unsanitized or unprepared for them. And so that's going to go for everything from the time they have at the pool. Good news, CDC has confirmed that pools are not ways to transmit COVID-19. They dump them with chlorine anyways, so all of the pools and all of that stuff is built to kill life forms. So pools are good to go. The ponds that we're going to be in are only going to have one pod. So the pond is only going to have one pod in it at a time with those sanitized jackets. So that's the only time that they're going to be coming in contact with those environments of water. And then all of the recreation materials will be sanitized. We'll be bringing our own sanitizing equipment with us for each of the groups to sanitize our individual cabins, our individual meeting spaces. Their staff are going to be going back and forth. You hear the word sanitize 2 or 3 times, right? So all that to say, we are doing everything possible to make sure that your students are safe, they are taken care of in terms of social distancing, in terms of sanitization, in terms of safety protocols. Anything that happens that's out of the ordinary, you will be contacted directly about. And we are doing everything to the letter when it comes to the protocols that the Texas Camp Associations, as well as our own churches, as well as Riverbend Retreat Center's policies, we are covering to the T. And so we're really excited about what this is going to look like. We're also very excited about the fact that they're actually going to get to run around outside. So rest assured, it sounds like we're putting them in Star Trek tubes right now, but I assure you, your student will be outside, they'll be running around, they may even get muddy, praise the Lord. So it's going to be a great time, we're really excited about that. And we think all the protocols we have in place will keep them adequately safe and give them plenty of context to be as free as possible once they arrive at camp. And that's what we're hoping, and that's what we're wanting that space and that time to be about. So with that, once again, if you have safety questions or sanitization questions or any sort of illness prevention questions, save those for just a bit. I'm going to invite up Josiah Presley to give his section on camp policies, and we'll take your questions at the end. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Kyle. So you just heard that kind of long, boring administrative spiel. That's the one you're used. That's just this year, just with all of COVID stuff happening. I get to give you the long, boring spiel that you get every year in preparation for camp. So what Kyle gave you is what we're doing in preparation for camp in light of COVID-19. I'm going to talk to you about just general overall camp policy because just because we have all these policies in place for COVID, it doesn't mean everything else goes out the window, as much as we might like that to be the case. So first, hopefully you've picked up this packet from one of these tables. It says Focus Camp Guidelines on the front page. If you haven't, Kyle can bring you a copy. Just raise your hand. We want to make sure everybody has this because I'm not going to read through it in detail. I'm just going to highlight the major issues that we usually have with these guidelines every summer, and then just other overarching things we think we need to talk about. But make sure you get a copy of these because they're going to outline things like your dress code, code of conduct, how discipline's going to work, how cell phones are going to work, and then also your packing list. So just really quickly to start out working through this, the very first thing you'll see there listed is dress code. Okay, and so we know this is always a problem, or this is always something that has to be talked about when we talk about summer camp, summer church camp specifically. So you'll see, if you read along that list, you'll see pretty much standard, normal camp dress code. If you've been to camp in the last year or two, you will have seen this. I just want to highlight a few things. You'll notice there's shorts, so we need to be aware of how long our shorts are. Usually, it's really funny because usually this is short length is usually a discussion that you have to have particularly towards the girls, but nowadays we have to have them particularly towards the guys too, with the whole trending and chubbies and things like that. So just make sure that your shorts are an appropriate length, and that kind of outlines it there. You want to make sure that if you're going to be, so I will say this, we will be spending a lot of time probably around water in the sense of we'll have water rec activities. I was talking to the Criswell rec team. They're probably going to be incorporating games that have water. It's actually going to work really well that they're incorporating games that have water because it's going to be, they're talking about it in ways where it'll all be soapy water. So we'll be bathing your students throughout the week too. So just be aware of that, especially for morning rec. We're going to encourage students to make sure you're going to want to pack regular clothes for the day, but you're also going to want to pack kind of dirty clothes that you can use for rec. Make sure like those short shirts you pack that they're like dark colored shirts, right? Not white colored shirts or really light colored shirts, because we know how shirts work when they get wet, right? So just be aware of that, be preparing for that. The thing we really want to highlight though with dress code is this. So as youth pastors, we have built this dress code together. We've put it together and we're all in agreement with this dress code. But dress code will be administered with your students by their youth leaders, meaning this. I'm from Galilee Avenue Baptist Church. I'm not going to be showing up and talking to somebody from FBC Sunnyvale and telling them if they're in or out of dress code, right? It's within our churches to handle dress code situation. Even more so, it's going to be within our churches based on gender of sponsors as well. So I'm not going to be telling one of my girls what dress code needs to look like and if they're in violation. That will be up to my female sponsors. And that'll be across the board, right? So male sponsors will be handling dress code for their male students in their church. Female sponsors will be handling dress code for their female students in their church group. So we want you to know that just coming into this, especially because I've already got my students to take care of. I don't need to be getting complaints from other churches about the way I'm interacting with their students from parents, right? So, but just be aware of that. We encourage you. Like, this is a really good rule of thumb. Like, if before camp you're helping them pack, you're going through with them packing, and you go, I don't know if this is going to fly for their dress code, just leave it at home, right? It's just they can go a week without wearing whatever it is, right? So we encourage you guys, you be on the front lines of that with your student so that we don't have to, as church leaders, with our student, hopefully into camp. Because nobody wants to have that conversation, and we'll have it if we have to, but nobody wants to have to. So you guys help us out there by taking care of that up front. You'll notice your code of conduct. That's the next thing after the dress code. And you see, I should say that dress code also includes swimwear and all that sort of stuff. So just make sure you read through that as you pack. We've got the code of conduct. Again, you can read through that and you can just see those guidelines. I will say this, and I say this because my second year of youth camp, I roll up and I have a sophomore boy in my group who he's like unpacking his bag, and like he pulls out like this like 6-inch hunting knife, right, that he just brought. So I'm going to outline that particularly because I feel like that's one of like the major issues we have. So like knives are not allowed at camp. So leave your knives at home. I think that's generally a problem for the boys. I don't know if that's a problem for girls or not. But leave your knives at home. Don't bring those. Even if it's just a little pocket knife though. It's still a knife. It's still sharp. It still draws blood. Let's leave those all at home. Also, discourage ahead of time. Like if they want to pull pranks at camp, don't like encourage it or don't let them bring things to pull pranks, right? It's funny, we took it out of the list and just made it an overall like prank, like no bringing prank supplies, they're unallowed. But like in the original list that we had, it said things like do not bring shaving cream other than for shaving, right? But like across the board, guys, let's leave all the prank supplies at home. That's not why we're there. That's not what our focus is, and we definitely don't want to have to deal with pranks that especially go wrong, because they always do. Because I don't know if as parents you've learned this or not, but kids don't always do the best job of doing things in moderation. You know what I mean? And so let's leave all of those at home. But you'll see that under the guidelines. Another thing I want to talk about is discipline. So we want y'all to know how we are going to handle discipline with your students. And I'm going to read through this because this is important for you all to understand. Just because discipline, we don't anticipate there being problems, but we need to know how to handle them. And we want you to know how we're going to handle them and how we're going to navigate them if a problem does arrive. So there's a number of different levels that discipline might happen under. The first is a verbal warning. So these are verbal corrections or warnings given by sponsors to students when a student is in breach of conduct. These are simple corrections that may be given when a student is engaging in an activity that is prohibited but not particularly dangerous to health or safety, right? So it might just be like, hey, bro, stop running, or hey, don't do this, put that down, different things like that, right? Just verbal warnings and corrections, right? So there's that level. There's another level of intervention. So a sponsor may need to intervene immediately in the instance that student's health or safety are at risk. So for instance, if Jimmy is on top of Billy, just punching Billy's face in, right? A sponsor is not going to be like, hey, Jimmy, I think you need to get off of Billy there. That's not okay, right? A sponsor is going to pull Jimmy off of Billy, right? Because Billy's health is very much so at risk there. So there's intervention, there's disciplinary measures. If a student continues to disregard directives from a sponsor will sit down with the student and the church leader. So this means, like my students, the sponsor would sit down with me and the student, right? Or with Aaron, or with Mike, or with Kyle, or with Jesse, or with Ryan, whoever their youth leader is, at which point the youth leader, youth pastor, minister, director, whatever their title is, will then work through what needs to happen and if any disciplinary measures will be taken. So at this point, the buck stops with the youth pastors, okay? And that's so if things go wrong, these are all ifs, right? But if things go wrong, you as parents know who you can get mad at, and that will be one of us, right? We hope that doesn't happen, though. We know that's not going to happen, though, because all our students are amazing and no problems ever arise when you put teenagers together, ever. And then finally, there are camp disciplinary measures. So if a student, in the instance that the camp's regulations have been breached and requires action, then the student will meet with the camp director and their church leader. Okay, and so for us, our week of camp, Kyle, who was just up before me, he's our camp director. So if a student has been doing something that is in a direct breach of the code of conduct for the camp, we might have to have a meeting with the youth pastor and with Kyle. If it's one of Kyle's kids, Kyle will just have to have like this back and forth good cop, bad cop with himself. And then measures will be taken. You will be made aware of these things. We will contact you if anything like this comes to light and has to be dealt with. So maybe not like on verbal warnings, right? So we're not gonna call parents every day and be like, hey, we had to tell Jimmy to, stop doing whatever, right? But if disciplinary measures have to be taken, you will hear from us and you will know what is up. So the last thing that I want to talk to us about when we talk about camp guidelines and code of conduct is cell phones. So each church will be able to, they might change up how they are going to do cell phones for their church, but here's a general overall overarching kind of rule of thumb for cell phones. They'll be permitted. If your church allows for your students to bring them, they'll be permitted. We are going to ask, again, that you don't spend a lot of time on them. We know you might want to use them for photos, different things like that, right? But excessive use of cell phones, and this will be how it is for my students, excessive use of cell phones, a sponsor might ask you to put your phone away. And if you keep having your phone out, we might get to the point where we will confiscate your phone for the rest of the week. And so I say that to say, parents, if you have a problem with a scenario in which that might happen, we'd humbly ask that you would go ahead and have your student leave their phone at home. Phones, they are a great tool, but they can also be a great distraction, and we don't want to distract them from camp this week. That being said, cell phones will not be permitted during worship time, so they need to bring a physical, hard copy Bible. And if your student doesn't have one, let us know. We'd love to get them one, but cell phones will not be acceptable forms of Bible for this week of camp, okay? Bring hard copy Bibles, and your church leader can work through that if there's different ways they want to nuance that cell phone policy with your own group. But that's cell phones. Then last, you see what to bring, what not to bring. You'll notice at the bottom of do not bring prank supplies or intent for pranks. Okay, so leave those things at home. So you have what you need to leave at home. You have what you need to bring. Again, okay, there are a couple things we want to highlight. First, this is particularly for boys. Bring deodorant, soap, shampoo or conditioner, toothbrush, toothpaste. Bring those things. I feel like usually, again, girls are pretty good about wanting those things and bringing those things. But I can't tell you how many times I've showed up to camp and we're like third day of camp, and I asked a middle school boy if he showered. He said, well, I showered the first day, but then I lost all my stuff. And it's like, bro, that doesn't mean you just don't shower, right? So make sure they've got those. You might make sure they've got extras of those, right? Put their name on it, right? Make sure they bring those. You also make sure they bring bedding, right? So they'll be on twin-size mattresses. Bring bedding. Bring a sleeping bag or pillows and sheets and blanket, right? Bring bedding. I don't want to have to give up my nice, warm sleeping bag to a student. I probably won't give up my nice, warm sleeping bag to students. So make sure y'all pack bedding. And then again, you see all those things listed under what to bring. If you have any questions about those, we're about to go into our Q&A here in a few minutes. Mike's about to come up to finish some stuff. But those are camp guidelines. Just be familiar with them. You should have everything you need there. And then obviously you can ask us any questions here in a few if you have them. All right, so I'll hand it to Mike then.
All right, how's it going? I am Mike. I'm the student ministry director at Hope Church in Sunnyvale. And when we were planning this meeting, I was like, man, I got the short end of the stick. I get to talk about all the forms. Then I realized there's only one, so I got the best part to talk about. We really only have one camp form for y'all, and that's the registration form. It's pretty self-explanatory if you walk through it. If you've sent your student to camp literally at ever before, it'll seem pretty simple. It's just a basic, like, here's your info, blah, blah, blah. Here's a waiver at the end saying, y'all can help my student if he breaks his leg. It's not going to happen, hopefully, but stuff like that is in there. That's honestly most of what I have to say. It's just that. It's really simple. You've probably seen it before. If you have any questions, ask your church. I know along with this, for most of the students, the church will have their own sort of liability form as well, saying we give this church permission to make calls, take them to the hospital, take them to the emergency room, things like that, to protect the church as well as the camp that we're staying at. So get in touch with your youth pastor as exactly what that's going to look like, but that's really it. There are some questions on this form that we're not going to know the answer to right now. Specifically, it asks about like your dorm number and stuff like that. We don't have those, so don't fill it out. Just leave it blank. It's not a big deal because things are a little different this year, right? We don't know what dorms we're staying at, so y'all don't know. You can't write it down. But that's really all that I have, and Jesse's going to kind of finish this up and lead us into the Q&A right now.
Awesome. I like how I'm the one that's leading us into the Q&A. I didn't say anything about any of this stuff. Hopefully I was listening. But no, we're going to kind of, I guess, if you want to go ahead and just come up here, guys. Josiah and y'all guys, I didn't even see you sitting over there, Josiah. Do we have any questions? We actually have a mic up here. If you would like to speak into the mic, you can. If not, you can yell it from wherever you're at if you feel comfortable doing so. Yes. Yes. Yes, so the question was, what about inhalers? Yes, inhalers can stay with the student, and that is perfectly fine. So, good question. Right, like an EpiPen, anything like that. Yes, good question, great question. Don't be intimidated by that question. If your question isn't that good, it's okay. We're here to answer it. Yes. To and from. Yeah, so to the pool, keep your shirt on, get in the water, you can have your shirt off. Get out of the pool, walk into your dorm, your shirt must be on. For boys. Yes. Thank you for clarification. Yes.
So the pod structure is primarily focused upon dining, the cabins, and worship and rec. So all of the fully functional, full camp activities will be run in pods. We're not going to be looking over the shoulder of students during like free time activities. Some of those free time activities will be just within the pod just because of what it is. So like if we're sending kids to a ropes course, they're going to be with their church, with their pod. They're going to be doing that. But we're not going to be like slapping the hands of kids who are playing basketball with one of the other pods. The idea is that if we can keep those kids 90% of the time within those pod structures, and then if we're sanitizing all of the surfaces that they're touching when they may not be in those structures, it basically eliminates 95% of all the chances of them being able to communicate any sort of bacteria between them. Yes, so like anything that's free time related, anything where we're not structuring that as the full-on camp, we're not going to be policing them in terms of pods in those situations. And that's just kind of the way that we've been able to find the balance of how do we give these kids the freedom they've needed for a long amount of time, as well as providing the safety that we're looking for. And so if we can combine that pod structure that creates those social distances, as well as combine that with the sanitization of all of those surfaces they're going to come in contact with whenever they're not in pods, that's the best way that we've been able to find to kind of strike that balance. It's a good question.
Oh, and by the way, we might be putting on the camp, but we're not the ones cleaning it. So they actually have a team. Like they're actually having a team come out each and every day to clean. So it'll be cleaned every day. Yeah, during free time, actually, they'll actually be going through and cleaning everything. Obviously, we're responsible for cleaning as well, but they're actually going to have a team come in and just, sanitize, which is the word Kyle used so well. Yes. 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 So the question was, is there going to be a hand sanitizer? Is there going to be, yes, each group, each pod in essence is in charge of bringing their own hand sanitizer. I know for us as a church, we always bring a lot of Fabuloso and whatever you call it, and just deep clean everything. And so we're all in agreement that we will be bringing hand sanitizer, wipes, and everything like that to kind of help do that as well. Because each morning, we will have a health screening. Check your temperature before you walk out that door, making sure everybody's hands have been clean. I know this sounds so weird. Like, I don't remember this stuff, like when I was in youth. This is so weird to me. But hey, we want y'all to have camp. We want y'all to have fun. But we also have to take precaution. All right? Great question. Great question. Did that answer your question? Yeah? Okay, good. Any other questions? Any other questions? Yes. Okay, so that one that you have in your left hand is Lake Ridge. That's their medical form. They brought theirs for their parents. But yes, you do fill out the other one, though. Any other questions? Yes. Ooh. Okay. The current total is 100 right now, and so we reserved for 175. The question is, how many students will be attending camp? Sorry. Anybody else? Any more questions? I do know for myself, I had a question written down. I know Aaron said that we'd be meeting at camp at 3 p.m. Check-in at camp will be at 3 p.m. I know each church will probably be doing check-in at their church differently, and so that communication will be distributed at a later time. Any other questions? Yes. Nothing else? This is so strange. There's so many parents and not enough questions for me. Yes. Health screening. You want to talk about?
Yes, thank you. Sorry. So just to give you a little bit of heads up, the amount of information that's gone to the camp from the governor's office as well as from the advisory boards of camps for Texas has been very fluid. So when we created this packet, this was something that they were expecting to have to administer to students. Since we created this packet, they have disbanded this requirement for camps. So there was originally the idea that we would either have to, self-quarantine your students for 14 weeks, and I said, my students got jobs, so no. Instead of this form, yes, if you do have this form, you do not have to be doing health screenings on your child previous to the week of camp. We will be doing those health screenings when they arrive with us and then during the weeks that they are at camp with us. So yes, that form is no longer required by Texas advisory boards or from Riverbend.
Anybody else? Yes. I know the form that we have that's in this packet, it says once a day. But I believe whenever we get more like little bit closer to camp, we'll be kind of talking about what time of the day we want to take that temperature. I believe we'd probably be taking it in the morning. Wake up, scan you. Again, I think this is so weird. This is so strange. It's driving me nuts thinking about this, but we have to do it. But preferably in the morning and in the evening. They're going to be outside in the afternoon, so it's kind of like if they're hot already, it's going to kind of give us a false, it's kind of hot in here right now, and it's just, Good question, though. Anybody else? Students, do you have any questions? I don't know. No questions. Yes. Okay, so each church is different, I believe. Actually, after we are done with this meeting, the youth pastors for each church will be kind of scattered. I believe Lake Ridge right here, they already kind of claimed their table with their medical forms, which is okay. Okay, but we'll be scattered around. Just kind of find your youth pastor, and they can kind of communicate that with you. But that's a good question. Great question. I am actually we're streaming on YouTube right now, and so I just want to make sure there's no parents online asking any questions. No questions. Awesome. That's a question right there. Please tell them that. No, don't end the meeting. No more questions, because I want to be respectful of your time as well. Awesome. Well, again, thank you, parents, for joining us this afternoon, taking the time out of your busy lives. We've all been quarantined. We're ready to get out and be in public, so thank you for showing up. You never know who's going to show up to these meetings. But again, we thank you for entrusting us with your students' lives and their faith. And so if you have any specific questions for your youth pastors, they'll be scattered around. Please take some water. I know it's a little warm in here. Youth pastors, thank you so much as well for all that you've done for your own students these last couple of weeks in preparing for Camp Focus. So I'm going to pray for us real quick, and you are dismissed. God, thank you so much for all that you're doing. God, I pray that this week, that as we prepare for camp, God, I pray that you would just prepare these students' hearts, also prepare the parents' hearts for when they return, God. God, be with us as youth pastors as we are continuing to figure out a few more logistics. God, be with us as we nail down some things, God. God, be with Steve John as he's bringing the word, and be with the band as they travel as well. So, God, we love you and we thank you. In your name I pray. Amen. Yes, one more thing. Final day for registration. Final day for registration. If you have friends and you know that they want to go to camp, parents, if you're like, okay, I'm kind of buying into this thing, I feel safe now, encourage your students to invite their friends. Trust me, it's going to be an experience. It's going to be a life-changing week for them. And so we do not want anybody to miss out on this week. So last day for registration is Father's Day. I'll make it simple for you. It's Father's Day, the 21st, okay? Next Sunday. Next week is the last day for registration. So make sure you get your friends signed up. We're excited. And is there anything else before I shut it down? All right. Y'all are dismissed. Thank you.